This week's Coming of Age episode is sponsored by OLTCA's sector champion, Arjo. It's through Arjo's ongoing partnership and generous support that we are able to host our thought-provoking podcast. Stay tuned to the end of today's episode to learn more about Arjo.
We were one of the first places in Switzerland to introduce the alternative with the thinking of loneliness, boredom, and helplessness. How we can overcome that by introducing animals and plants and children and spontaneity. And it was a success.
This is Coming of Age, Meeting the Needs of Our Aging Population, a podcast about how we can better support our seniors. I'm your host, Donna Duncan. I am also the CEO of the Ontario Long-Term Care Association, which represents about 70% of long-term care homes in Ontario, Canada. Exploring new innovations in seniors' care, including long-term care, from a global perspective can inspire and lead us to fresh ideas on how we can best support our seniors. That's why I'm delighted today to be speaking with Vincenzo Paolino, a specialist in geriatric care equipped with an entrepreneurial spirit and a commitment to values-based leadership. Vincenzo has a fascinating background, starting with a psychology degree and then moving on to psychiatric nursing with a specialty in seniors care. He first worked as a nursing director in a hospice for people with AIDS during the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. Then 13 years as a nursing director in a long-term care home where he and his team members successfully implemented major culture change. Since 2013, Vincenzo has been operating Almacasa, a collection of residential communities for seniors in Switzerland that take a unique approach to seniors' care. Vincenzo and I are both members of the board of the Global Aging Network, where members, many of whom joined us in season 1 of our podcast, share their jurisdiction's challenges and solutions, most especially during the pandemic, but also as we think about the future and how we can improve seniors' care. Vincenzo had some excellent insights and stories that could help us discover new possibilities for the future here in Ontario. I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I enjoyed my conversation with Vincenzo. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our second season of Coming of Age. I am so delighted today to welcome Vincenzo Paolino for an interview with us as we reimagine what it is to support our aging population, not only in Canada, but around the world.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We're delighted to have you join us from Switzerland today. So as we start today, Vincenzo, we really, in our last season, we focused a lot on what we were experiencing through the pandemic. So it's been more than 2 years now. We saw a lot of the challenges where seniors really were the hardest impacted by the pandemic, and COVID really preyed on our older population. You know, as we move forward in this season, we want to really look at what's some of the reimagining of long-term care that has been taking place. And I know that you've done a lot of work before the pandemic that really showed its efficacy through the pandemic, where you actually managed extremely well on behalf of those you served. Really would love your insights. What got you into the field of aged care, Vincenzo?
Well, as you mentioned in your introduction, I was born in Munich 57 years ago. So one part of my motivation, of course, is to create a future where my parents or even myself would feel comfortable to live in if we cannot do everything on our own. And that's my motivation. I studied psychology in Munich. Then I was afraid to become a workless psychologist because at the time there were so many on the market. And then I rolled up, I got into a apprenticeship for psychiatric nursing in Switzerland. I got into this apprenticeship, and my first 8 months in 1988 were on a ward for chronically ill psychiatric patients who happened to be also very old. My first impression of long-term care was a huge room with 16 beds, 8 beds on one side of the room and 8 beds on the other side. Every patient had only one small piece of furniture beside the bed as privacy. And we were obliged to control those furnitures every week. So there was no privacy. There was a sort of Tayloristic approach to nursing. I remember myself standing there in rubber shoes and washing persons down, and the next staff member would then dry them. And that was so shocking to me. At the end, I decided to write a thesis on that for becoming then a psychiatric nurse. And the title of the thesis was New Approaches in the Care for Older People. It was a success. We got a prize for it. And in 1991, I graduated with this thesis and started working in an AIDS hospice in Zurich. You might remember that. We had no cure. We had lots and lots and lots of deaths every year. My longing for good palliative care, even today, is based on this experience in the 90s. Then my career developed in the form that I signed up to a job in a conventional nursing home with 92 residents. Part of it was a high care need, and the other part was for lower care needs, but it was very, very traditional and hierarchic structures. Everyone wanted me to know everything. And I was, as a nursing director in that place, I was confronted with expectations that were very difficult to fulfill. On the other hand, the quality was not good. So I decided, together with my boss at the time, that we should put up school programs for staff, that we should try to change the architecture as much as possible. We did that. And also we introduced the Eden Alternative in 2001 with the thinking of loneliness, boredom, and helplessness, and how we can overcome that by introducing animals and plants and children and spontaneity. This was the buzzwords for the time then. And it was a success because our staff members immediately understood what it was all about. Because every one of us has experienced loneliness and helplessness and boredom. And everyone knows how good children and animals and spontaneity and plants are for our souls. I think that we here in Switzerland, with Almacasa, we have put the Swiss finish on the Eden Alternative because we have slightly different professional roles here in Switzerland.
I know from some of our discussions and our meetings through the Global Aging Network, your residents did well. Your homes fared very well compared to other countries as we went through the pandemic. Could you maybe take us through how that philosophical thinking translated itself into models that made things better and safer?
First of all, I think that we all who work in long-term care, we are driven by the idea that we want to put in place and realize and make happen humanistic values. The problem is that our system of care for older people is derived from the hospital paradigm. The hospital system, the hospital idea has been very successful in curing diseases, especially in the beginning of the 20th century. We had penicillin invented and Röntgen beams and you name it. So when in the 50s and 60s, we tried to make something better for older people, we thought of them as being patients. And we built them all over the world, all over the industrialized world. We built those sometimes quite huge institutions. And we thought that by doing that, and probably also adjacent to a hospital, we would have a good quality of care. And that may be true, but the quality of life was not so much in question. So for the time being there, it was a step further, and I don't want to criticize that. Today we are in a different world, and we have to take into consideration that quality of life is what we have to take care of. And quality of care is there. It's people expect that, but that's only the basis for quality of life. Nobody wants to live in an institution. And that means if we take that seriously, that long-term care is about caring for people that live there. That's the only address they have. That's the place they live. We are guests, but usually our staff is programmed in a different way. They work there and then they feel like the residents or the patients live in their workplace, right? So we have to make that culture change and perception change in all our staff members. And we start with ourselves, of course. During the pandemic, it is now a proven fact that the smaller institutions, the smaller places where people live, had better outcomes. And also it was more possible for relatives and friends to be with their loved ones in a phase of dying, for example, in a palliative phase of the life. Maybe I should now tell the audience a little bit of the model that we do. The Almacasa is in the canton of Zurich right now. We have 4 places, and each Almacasa has around 30 residents. And these 30 residents, they are divided in groups of 10 to 12. And in the center of each group is a huge living room combined with the kitchen. And in every of those kitchens, we cook every day, because otherwise there would be no meal on the table. So we don't have this tray system where there is a central kitchen and you have to put the tray on the table and then be ready at 12 to send the tray back. So we cook there. That has some challenges, of course. We have to follow all the hygienic rules. We have to be in line of being a nursing home, of course. That's true, and we can do that. But the feeling of coming in such a place in where someone is cooking and the others join, they help or do not help, they just watch, they smell, they hear the cutlery. It's a totally different way of life. And keep in mind that in Almacasa, we have residents with high or very high needs of care. And people with dementia make around 75% of our residents. And especially for those who need those microstimulations, the microstimulations that allow the brain to not shut down completely, that's very important. And the fascinating result is that in our places, we have very, very few bedridden people. If it is at the end of life, like in the palliative care phase. But usually our residents, they want to get up in the morning because they have something to do.
As you think about what's working with you, you're serving a very smaller populations, a very diverse community. It's the people who care for them too. What we lost people to care. So many of where our homes, where we saw the most devastating loss of life, it's because we didn't have people to provide the care. They themselves got sick or they were afraid and they left. As you balance the living with care, how does that translate to building your workforce and engaging people and building at care and living support teams who are anchored in that more humanistic philosophy, but who want to come to work? Is your secret sauce the size of your homes, your culture, your philosophy? And how do we share that and learn from that and make it possible for other countries to find ways to adopt that? What is that secret? How did we get there?
The secret sauce is a mixture of different things. First of all, I think that we have to think in circles rather than in hierarchic structures. Every one of us knows the organizational charts. They are hierarchic. They are silo-like. We have the care silo, and we have the kitchen, and we have housekeeping, and so on. And that's we don't have that in Almacasa. We have a circle model. In the closest circle around the resident, we have nursing assistants. We have the person who cooks in the kitchen that I was talking about. We have students. We have the people who clean. And the registered nurses are also in the inner circle, but not quite. And in the next circle, we have like the support systems here of our Almacasa central unit. We have the doctors and physiotherapy and so on. So this is the circle model. To organize that, you have to be able to say goodbye to some of your perceived privileges as a leader. You are not in control of everything, but you are giving space for people who need care. And you bring them together with people who give care in a good way, in an organized way. Our residents and our staff, they feel empowered to do the decisions and to live spontaneity and not having every day like the day before, like in a assembly line style work. This gives meaning to the work. It fosters relationships between the caregivers and the people who need care, our residents. And that's what it's all about. It's about relations. And we as leaders have to make sure that these relations can grow and be fruitful. It's as simple as that. If you give the people these opportunities, they will love it because they come with a good heart. But don't forget that you also have to keep your house clean. So sometimes you get some staff members who are, they don't share maybe your values. They are cynical, or there is defeatism. And then you should be brave enough to say that's not okay with us. You can't work with us. And so you keep the good ones that you want to keep, and the other ones you would go to another place. So we have to be brave. We have to make decisions, but based on our values and our humanistic approach.
Vincenzo shared some insightful comments about why people choose to work in long-term care and with seniors, and how he has seen that a humanistic approach to care is just as meaningful to the staff teams as it is to the residents. Residents want and deserve flexibility and a quality of life that is meaningful to them. Staff want the time to build relationships and to make a difference in someone's quality of life. Around the globe, there's a strong movement towards a person-centered care philosophy that focuses on individual quality of life as much as on quality of care, and this is no different in Ontario. The Ontario government rules and structure that govern long-term care can make it challenging to be creative, but we are seeing many homes doing whatever they can within the government framework to enhance the lives of their residents. Vincenzo also talked about the importance of values-based leadership and the need to model those values for your teams. His comments led us to a conversation about the importance of leaders in championing diversity, including what's needed to make long-term care environments feel safe and welcoming for LGBTQ+ individuals. Vincenzo is the former president of an organization called queerAltern that helps to develop housing and services for LGBTQ+ seniors. Your focus in supporting the queer community. I find it so interesting. We're having discussions in Ontario right now around supporting diverse populations. And we're talking about more specialized cultural homes. And we're talking about more specialized homes around diagnoses. You're building homes around the queer community. And I would love your thoughts as we think about different populations. How do we deconstruct long-term care so it's not a catch-all? And how do we start looking at different populations and supporting them? How do we better support our LGBT populations? And how is that different than supporting other seniors populations? And why is it important to have more specialized living for our queer community?
Thank you for that question. As a gay man, I'm interested in that, of course. And in 2014, beside my work for Almacasa, I was the founder and then after that 5-year president of an association called Queer Aging, or in German, queerAltern. And we developed a model also it looks a bit like Almacasa, but it's then for the queer community. And we have now reached an agreement about 1.5 years ago with the city of Zurich, and they will help the association to build the place, and the association then will help to organize and to find the right residents there and so on. So the impetus for that was because many of the members of the association said, I will never go into a conventional nursing home because I will have to go back to the closet. And that was the result of a study in the Zurich nursing homes. And they asked people, how many gay or lesbian people do you have? That was about 3 to 4 years ago. And they found only 3. The assumption was, and I think the assumption is right, that LGBT people go back in the closet because they don't want to be seen as that and recognized as that. So I think the need for having such a place is enormously there. But we have also members and LGBT people who say, I don't want to be in a place that is just for us. I want to make things better for every institution, for every place. And so it's a double thing to do. On one hand, develop those specialized places, which will be necessary for the next 2 decades, I would say. And then, on the other hand, make the places that already exist ready and open for a diverse community. So I don't think that the only solution is to create different monolithic groups of every minority we have. But that's important for a certain period of time to gain more visibility and to train people. But in the end, I think that we have to make every place as inclusive as possible. But that's it, not either or. It's you can do both, and you have to do both things simultaneously.
Vincenzo, I want to thank you for your leadership. You've got so much to give, and these discussions, I think the more we have them around the globe, the more we realize how much we have in common. It's going to be a very, very different future, but it is through the voices like yours that we're going to get there.
I completely agree, and I think we have to make that transformation because it's for our own sake.
It was such a pleasure to speak with Vincenzo and be inspired by his passion for seniors' care. There were several takeaways from our conversation. First, Vincenzo's secret sauce for recruiting and retaining a team includes creating an environment that provides a high quality of life for residents and empowers staff to engage with residents to support purpose and meaning. Long-term care homes attract good people who want to form relationships with residents and make a difference in their lives. And we need to be doing everything we can to allow them to do just that, including questioning regulations and models that aren't set up to support these models of care. Second, I welcomed Vincenzo's insights about how to support our LGBTQ+ populations and other groups with specific cultural and diverse needs. He believes that designated homes are definitely needed for support, visibility, and to train people, but the goal should also be to make every place as inclusive as possible. It's not an either-or, he says. We can and should do both things simultaneously. Finally, Vincenzo has a reputation as a creative and engaging leader, and I appreciated his comments about what a leader does. That it's not about being in control, that it's about giving space and flexibility to the people who need care and bringing them together with kind people who provide their care in the best possible environment and in an organized way. The result is residents who feel they can live the way they want to live, and staff who feel empowered to make decisions to support them. That's the philosophy behind the changes we are all trying to make for seniors of today and tomorrow. This week's Coming of Age episode is sponsored by OLTCA's sector champion, Arjo. Arjo believes that empowering movement within healthcare environments is essential to quality care, with products and solutions that are designed to promote a safe and dignified experience through patient handling, medical beds, personal hygiene, disinfection, and the prevention of pressure injuries and venous thromboembolism. Arjo is committed to driving healthier outcomes for people facing mobility challenges. Learn more about Arjo solutions at arjo.ca. Thank you for listening to Coming of Age, meeting the needs of our aging population. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate our show 5 stars, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, I'm your host, Donna Duncan. Keep well.